Kanto. Kanto is the setting of the first generation of Pokemon games, Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red. It is the only region in Pokemon to be named after a real place, the Kanto region of Japan. Its in-game map resembles geographical features like Sagami Bay, Suruga Bay, and Tokyo Bay, and elements of the Chubu region are also present. Kanto lies east of Johto, forming a small continent with it. At south of Kanto are the Sevi and Orange Islands, while Hoenn lies to the southwest. Sinnoh is presumably to the north, while Unova and Kalos are distant relative to this region. The Pokemon professor here is Professor Oak, and the starter Pokemons are Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. Of course, we don't have to forget about Pikachu, who is the starter of the Pokemon Yellow Special Edition. Most of the cities of this region are based on colors, with the only difference being Palette Town, which represents a palette, a collection of colors. The cities are based on real Japanese cities. For example, Viridian City is based on Hakone, a little town in Kanagawa. Pewter City is based on Maebashi, the capital city of Gunma. Vermilion City, instead, is the Yokohama city inside the Pokemon franchise. Lavender Town is inspired by Oshiko City, a Japanese town that contains a large-scale graveyard that allows people to bury passed-away pets. Celadon City represents Tama, Newtown, a large residential development area of Tokyo. Saffron City is based on Shinjuku, a district of Tokyo. Fuchsia City is based on Tarayama Town of Toyama Prefecture. Cinnabar Island is inspired by Izu Oshima, a volcanic island at the south of Japan, very near to Tokyo. Johto. Johto is located to the west of Kanto. It is based on the Kansai region of Japan, and the NPC of the Japanese version of the games, Pokemon Silver, Gold, and Crystal, speaks with a Kansai accent. In Japan, the Kanto and Kansai regions are the most populous regions of Japan. Johto, much like Kansai it's based on, is a much more traditional and cultural region. This region gives the Pokemon a bit of background history, introducing us to Pokemon ruins and ancient cities. The myth of Ho-Oh and Lugia start here, and even Celebi considered Johto as its home. All the towns in the English version are named after plants or things related to plants. You start the story in New Barktown, where the Pokemon professor, Elm, offers you Chikorita, Cyndaquil, or Totodile as your starter. Professor Elm is the professor credited with the discovery of Pokemon eggs and an expert of Pokemon evolutions. As with the Kanto region, many cities of Johto are also inspired by real Japanese cities. New Barktown is based on Shizuoka City. Cherry Grove City is inspired by Toyohashi. Violet City, which takes the place of Nara, the Sprout Tower is a reference to Horioji, the oldest wooden building in the world. Azalea City is based on Minabe, a village famous for its high-quality Japanese apricots. Goldenrod City is inspired by Osaka, the economical center of Western Japan, hence why it's way more modern and developed than other cities. Czech City takes the place of Kyoto, the cultural center of Japan. Both Burned and Bell Towers were inspired by two real buildings in the city, named Golden Pavilion and Silver Pavilion Temple. Olivine City takes place of Kobe, the biggest port in this area. Cyanwood City is based on Naruto, a city on the Shikoku Island. Mount Silver is of course a reference to Mount Fuji. Hoenn. This region is southwest of both Kanto and Johto. It is based on the real Japanese island of Kyushu, rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. It is the setting for Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. This region is a bit different than the two before. The entire region is surrounded by water. The myth of this region talks about two legendary Pokemon that have created the lands and the seas. I think most of you know who I'm talking about. Kyushu, the island the region is based on, also has the largest active volcano in Japan, which perfectly explains the volcanic theme of Groudon. The islands in this region have climates that range from desert to rainforest. It's no surprise that the regional professor here, Professor Birch, is a specialist in Pokemon habitats. I honestly just love the way that this guy looks more like a tourist running around Thailand than a scientist. He offers you Trico, Torchic, or Mudkip to pick as your starter. This region is also the first region where Team Rocket are no longer the main villains, instead being replaced by Team Magma and Team Aqua. Sinnoh. This is the setting of Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and their remakes. It is located north of the previous three regions and is based on the northernmost landmass of Japan, Hokkaido. When I say based on, I really mean based on. Most of the towns in Sinnoh are based on and positioned according to real towns in Hokkaido. Even the geographical features like the lakes and mountains are very inspired by the real ones. The region is heavily themed after religion, being the one that establishes the concept of a Pokemon creation myth. The Pokemon professor here is Professor Rowan, a very serious old man. He offers you a choice of Turtwig, Chimchar, or Piplup to pick as your starter Pokemon. Each of their final evolutions is based on different mythologies, tying back to the religious theme of the whole region. Turtwig's final evolution, Torterra, is based on the myth of the world turtle, a huge turtle that supports the world on its shell. Infernape is based on Sun Wukong, and Empoleon is based on Poseidon, the god of sea, as well as Napoleon, the French emperor. Unova. The Unova region is a first for a lot of things. It is the first region with a female professor, and it is also the first region to not be based on Japan. It is actually largely based on the greater metropolitan area of New York, New Jersey, and Liberty Island. The Battle Subway is a nod to the New York City subway, and the Sky Arrow Bridge is likely based on the Brooklyn Bridge. The starter Pokemons here are Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott. They are given to the player by Professor Juniper, as said before, the first Pokemon professor that is a woman. This is also the region that introduced the concept of seasonal changes in the game, having spring, summer, fall, and winter. Something that reminds me of an old game of Zelda. A large part of the theme for this region is diversity, likely based on the fact that America is the most diverse country in the world. The Japanese name for Unova is derived from the Japanese word ishu, that means one variety. The creator said that this is because, despite the region being very diverse in race and Pokemon, they're all just living creatures when seen from a distance. Kalos. Kalos is shaped like a five-pointed star, with one of its biggest cities being Lumiose City in the north-central part of the region. It has a lot of rivers and waterways snaking through its landscape, cities, and towns. Northeast of Lumiose City is a snowy mountain range with plains below that. Western Kalos features a vast ocean where the seaside shallower city lies. This region is based on the area of France. The director of the Pokemon game said that they picked France because it fits with the game's theme of beauty. This region is also the region we are first able to play in 3D, so obviously they wanted to be the most beautiful yet. This is the setting of Pokemon X and Y as well as Pokemon Legends Z through a new game coming in the 2025. The regional professor is Professor Sycamore, and the starter Pokemons are Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. These starters' evolutions represent the classic RPG stereotype. Chespin evolves to become a mighty warrior, Chestnut. Fennekin becomes Delphox, a mage, and Froakie becomes Greninja, a thief. Alola. Alola is a setting for Pokemon Sun and Moon. The name is derived from the Hawaiian word for life, Ola, as well as the Hawaiian greeting, Aloha, and of course, this region is heavily based on Hawaii. Alola is made up of 4 islands, which are all based on real Hawaiian islands. Mele Mele as Oahu, Akala Island as Maui, Ula Ula Island as Hawaii, Pony Island as Kauai. In the middle of these 4, there is an artificial island called Aether Paradise, the house of the Aether Foundation. Each of the natural islands in the region are associated with the same color as their real-world counterparts, and their name is just a Hawaiian word for that color. The region is a popular resort destination and attracts a lot of tourists from other regions. In Alola, humans and Pokemon coexist in a very close relationship, and a culture has developed that is different from other regions. Each island has something called a kahuna. Basically, they're the chiefs of the island selected by the island's guardian deity. Each island's kahuna offers the first Pokemon to trainers, who's beginning their journey. The 3 starter choice are Rowlet, Layton, and Poplio. This region has 2 professors, Professor Kukui and his wife, Professor Burnett. Galar. Galar is the setting of Pokemon Sword and Shield and is based on the United Kingdom. According to Shigeru Omori, the game's director, the UK is chosen as a basis for Galar to tie into Pokemon Sword and Shield's theme of strength. The The main part of Galar focuses heavily on the island of Great Britain, especially England. However, the orientation of the landmass is rotated 180 degrees compared to real-world England, so the northern Galar is the southern England. The heavy British inspiration can also be seen in the starter Pokemon. The player is given a choice of Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble. Their final evolutions, Rillaboom, Cinderace, and Inteleon, all represent different parts of British culture. Rillaboom being a nod to the punk rock scene of the United Kingdom. Cinderace is based on football that is very popular in the UK, and Inteleon is literally the secret agent Pokemon, drawing heavy inspiration from British spy flicks like James Bond. Hisui. This is the setting of Pokemon Arceus. It is actually the Sinnoh region 300 years prior to the 4th generation games. Much like Sinnoh is based on modern-day Hokkaido, Hisui is based on Hokkaido of the long past. The region is extremely similar to its modern counterpart, except much harsher. Because of this, there are quite a few species of the Pokemon that can be found in here and not in Sinnoh. The regional professor is Professor Laventon, who offers a rather unique starter trio. Each of them is actually a starter from a previous region. They are Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott. Paldea. Paldea is the setting for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It is based on the Iberian Peninsula, the landmass that holds Spain, Portugal, and Andorra. It primarily draws from the culture of Spain, as can be seen in its architecture, food, musical influences, Pokemon names, and the sporadic use of the Spanish language by the NPC. Paldea has 12 cities and towns. Instead of routes, it is divided into 4 provinces, each with 3 areas. At the center of the region is the Great Crater of Paldea, which houses Area 0, home of many Paradox Pokemons. This is also the first region to have different professors for the different versions of the game. Professor Sada is the professor of Pokemon Scarlet, and Professor Turo is the professor of Pokemon Violet. The starter trio are Sprigatito, Fuecoco, or Quaxley. They all represent folklorist elements of Latin countries' parties, particularly carnivals. Sprigatito evolves to become a magician, Meowscarada. Fuecoco becomes a singer, Skeledirge. Quaxley becomes a dancer, Quaquaval.